one's gonna buy it. It's not even like it's a good mod. It's like it's just showing off that you have Prime Chamber. It's like I felt that.
Yeah. So
how you guys doing?
Good, great.
Doing good.
Nice.
Glad to have you.
Thank you, thank you.
So, welcome to our stream where we talk about things that we pretend like we're experts on. We're
no, my pleasure. Thanks for having me here because I'm not really. I know a little bit, but I don't know any more than some people, I guess.
Oh, you okay? Let's be honest. You know a lot more than the three of us combined.
Yeah, I did get pretty. Yeah, I got pretty deep into certain aspects of the game, and then pretty awful at certain other aspects because of how much I know in one area.
I can't even use all of the Rivens yet because I'm too low of MR. So
Yeah, no. So if anyone doesn't know, I'm Hydrogen, and I trade Rivens a lot. At least I did when I played a long time ago, and I stopped the game for a couple years, and I'm back now. But nothing has really changed. It's pretty obvious. So yeah, ask any questions you want.
well, us here, we have prepared a list of questions that, figured probably some standard ones, nothing too crazy asking. So I guess we'll first start off with how long have you been playing, if you can, give a total amount.
Yeah, no. Let's see. I'm trying to dial back, so roughly about 7 years. About seven, almost 8 years.
Dang.
Yeah, I have to match it up with my life. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm trying to think that would be 2013 then?
Yeah. I got back from Afghanistan at the end of 2013 or 2012. So yeah, so it's beginning of 2013. So it should be just about 2013.
Nice. Alright. Let's see. So you sell and trade, you trade Rivens and sell them and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, from your experience, do you like or dislike the Riven market? As a whole?
That's a very good question and very, very hard to answer. No, it's
We come with the hard-hitting questions.
even if it's a non-answer, you can't say yes or no.
I would say in its current state, I really dislike it. In the state that it was executed and introduced, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really good option. I thought it was really it opened up a lot of options for players, and it was a really new aspect, and it was really, really cool. And then it just devolved into this really awful looking kind of animal that it is now.
Elitism, plat grab kind of thing.
Very much, yeah. There's a lot going on, and I slowly learned that over the course of my introduction to Rivens as I transitioned along with everybody else from selling normal mods, here's a heavy caliber rank 10 for 300 plat, and then all of a sudden Rivens are coming out and so is selling his for 900 plat, and you're trying to understand what's the value on this, and how do you gauge the value of this mod versus another one that has half of the same name in it. Why is one more expensive than the other? And it took me a lot to get into, and I had to really get into the weeds so that I could understand what because back then I bought all my plat. I didn't get to play a lot. I was active duty army, and so I didn't get to play a lot, and I had to purchase my plat. So when people are saying, "Hey, this is 1,000 plat," and I'm like, "My guy, that's a lot of money." Hey, why? And that was what prompted me to do a lot of my research. So
Nice.
yeah.
All right. So, when it comes to selling Rivens and trading them and stuff, where do you think is the best place to do so? Because there's trade chat, there's all kinds of other stuff. There's Warframe Market, which I see seems to be one of the most active spots for the trade. But where do you personally think is the best place to buy and sell?
It depends on what you're doing. So that's a really good question, because it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So if you're just trying to get a general Riven, like that has, that you can mess around with, like if you have a really easy goal, trade chat's your easiest bet, because you're going to get guys who want to sell something a little faster. They don't really care about the mod, they're not thinking about it, but you mention it in trade chat and they're like, oh yeah, I have that, and it just sits there and does nothing, and I don't even remember it. And so when you offer money for it, they're like, oh yeah, I want that right now. And so it's one of your best bets is to get the, like, one of the lowest deals is to really just use trade chat. But there are certain other areas when you're looking for really good Rivens. There's a lot of avenues there. So, and I was surprised to find all these. So there's Reddit. Reddit has War Trade. There's Discord. Discord has there's lots of Riven trading Discords. There's Facebook. There's Facebook groups and pages for certain Riven people to post their Rivens.
Really?
And yeah. And then of course there's Riven Market. Now Riven Market for me is my least preferred, because that's where I find the most elitism, as you say. It's the most amount of overpriced Riven, most amount of people. Like if you go there now and you look up a Riven and you put in, like, you say, okay, I want to buy let's say I want to buy a Cernos Riven or whatever, and you put in a perfect negative, right? You say I want to get this perfect Riven, and you put in the negative that you're looking for, which is like a wide variety of acceptable negatives, so harmless negatives, so to speak. So zoom, weapon recoil, mag capacity, right? Ammo mags, impact
Damage
for sure.
to like corpus or something.
No, and you don't want those. Those are not considered good Rivens, right? Those are not considered great Rivens. So we're talking about harmless specifically. And you look at those, and you're looking for that, right? You say, I want a plus recoil on a bow or a beam weapon that has zero impact on the weapon at all. And you go to look for that, and as soon as you do a search, you'll see all these beautiful Rivens, and then the price tags next to them say 99999.
Yeah.
And you go over and it's the same person. It's the same people that do these things over and over again. And you find these folks, and you realize that these people are just trying to show off. They're not trying to sell the Rivens. They're just trying to show that they have them. They're just trying to declare that they have a lot of mod. They're not putting a price. They're not really using it for what it's for, right? No one's gonna care if you put up a rank 10 Serration for 10,000 plat. No one cares, right? Because on Warframe Market, because Warframe Market is designed to be effective, right? It's always sorted by lowest price. It always is effective like that. Riven Market doesn't always work like that when you're looking for specifically good Rivens. So it is definitely my least preferred, but it is the easiest way to find good Rivens.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Nice.
it's on that topic, that's what I've always kind of thought too. When you see things for 10k plat, or even like the classic 9999, it's no one's ever buying those. It's they're just sitting up there to show off. They're trying to flex. There's the same with Prime Chamber. It's it was sitting for 9 million or the highest number cap, and it's no one's gonna buy it. It's not even it's a good mod. It's it's just showing off that you have Prime Chamber. It's I felt that same way with Rivens.
Yeah, just a status symbol.
It's understandable. If I have a Riven for a weapon, I'll try the weapon. If I don't like it, then I'll just end up transmuting all the Rivens just back into a new one to unveil. Don't really sell. Let's see. What are your thoughts on the current Riven disposition changes and the balance of it right now?
Oh, that's a great question. So they recently changed a weapon that I thought they would never change. So, and they even made a statement that they would not change it. And you guys might know this is the comb Riven, the comb. So comb Rivens historically, with 100% status chance, the older days, the 100% status chance was incredibly sought after, right? So those Rivens, they sold very well. So 100% status chance, we're talking about 120 plus with damage multi-shot, plus recoil, these harmless negatives, or even minus infested, right? Because it's a slash based weapon, works better, it's infested, right? So certain negatives are better than others, but they said we will not change the disposition of certain weapons because of weapons like the comb. We won't change the disposition because certain people rely on a specific percentage, and if we change the disposition, it ruins this, everything that these people are trying to do. And so they recognize that. And then all of a sudden, I come back. This was 2 years ago. And then I left the game because I had, I had my work to do. And I came back and they implemented the status chance changes, and that just wrecked everything those guys were doing. And so then they decided to nerf. They finally, after years, they brought down the disposition of the comb because it's no longer valid. It's no longer important. So it's been tough to like see what DE is doing. Because, and they have every right to, they have every right to try to balance these to get everybody to use these different weapons, but it makes it harder now, especially so now, it's harder to purchase a really great Riven that you're not so sure about, especially if it's for a specific type of build. And what I mean here is specifically is status weapons, right? So it's harder to purchase certain builds that go into status stuff, and have very niche builds, not just like, oh, this is a ultra crit and this is a crit weapon with a crit Riven, done and done, right? We're not talking about those Rivens. We're talking about all the other ones that you have to use for specific builds. Like, oh, I need electricity on this Riven so I can put this build in and make this extra mod. You have an idea, which is the point of Rivens, right? Mm-hmm. Which is one of the coolest points of Rivens is the flexibility in them. It makes it harder to purchase those. Because I know, even if I'm uncertain that I'm like, okay, well, what's the likelihood that DE is going to change the disposition of this Riven again? And they said they're only gonna change it 1 pip at a time, right? So we go from 5 to 4, 4 to 3. Every time they do a disposition changes. But take a look at the Kuva Brahma. These Rivens that for some reason are not selling for less than 1K. They're just they're just not selling for less than a K. And we it's so commonly used, it's very obvious that DE is going to nerf that Riven again and again until it's balanced against the rest of the weapons in the game. They did the same thing with Tiburon before I left. Tiburon was incredibly amazing, and then all of a sudden it's I came back and it's kind of worthless.
I see.
And so it makes it harder to purchase these Rivens because that DE is going to put a lot of work into bringing these weapons down. So I definitely think that in the recent times they've shaken up the market a lot by making some of these changes, mm-hmm. Especially the status chance changes.
All right. Since I'm kind of new, I was gonna ask, could you explain what Riven disposition does and kind of is? Because I'm dumb and out of the loop.
No, sure. So Riven dispositions are ranked from 1 to 5, and they are typically based upon the popularity of the weapon that is being used. I mean, that was their initial statement, way back when. They're like, hey, dispositions are based on the popularity and the usage of this weapon, and what it makes the weapon do. There's a reason that Comb had 5 disposition, because it was never used, right? It was never used. Back in the day, they used, back in my day, they used Boltor. Right, and then it became, the Vectus, and then just so on to these other weapons, the Atarax and all that other stuff. So these weapons that are incredibly popular, they put those Riven because they're already powerful. The base stats are powerful. You can use mods. You can already do enough with that. And they said, okay, hey, we'll make Rivens for these weapons too, but we're going to bring the disposition down to about 1 to 2. So that they balance out, and then we'll turn these other weapons. Let's take a look at the Hind, or the Leto, right? These other weapons that don't get used so often, and we'll turn those Riven dispositions way up to make those weapons compete against these popular weapons. And for DE, this is a specific this is a capitalistic move because it encourages you, the user, to spend plat or purchase forma to forma up those weapons, right? It helps them, it helps their business market, but it also helps the player have more options to pick from when it comes to hey, what's a viable weapon in the arsenal of Warframe. And so the Rivens, what they do, they just bring in, they're supposed to be this great equalizer to weapons.
All right, I see. All right, Jason, you said you had a question.
Yeah, going back on the status changes, while they may have been bad for Rivens, do you think they were healthy for the overall state of the game?
Oh, absolutely. The status changes were very much needed. I think they did a really great job by balancing it against the crit, because there was no incentive. Again, there was no incentive to go over 100% status chance unless you had a shotgun with pellets in it. and that was just kind of a broken meme, right? So the best thing about that is now I'm looking at status weapons and status Rivens really hard, because I'm like, okay, how can I like make this thing like really cool? So status Rivens are like, so you said status chance might be bad for Rivens. It's not necessarily bad. So now status chances are pretty good. Like
No.
if
I was talking about the status changes, not
Yeah.
just status chance.
Okay, yeah. Oh, the changes in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Corrosive was like a lot of the Rivens, like the values change with the patches, of course. So, like the value of having certain combinations, like let's say electricity is not as sought after anymore, because electricity used to be pretty well sought after because it matched with corrosive pretty well. So a lot of these electric Rivens are not really they're worth that much anymore, because corrosive is of course one not as as king as it used to be. And now you're looking for toxin, now you're looking for cold. Well, really, primarily you're looking for toxin, especially on primary weapons because of primed cryo rounds. So you always have to like take into account what mods can you put in that slot. You're looking at melee weapons. You want cold on your Riven because you have primed fever strike, right? So you have to balance what you're looking for on each slot. The secondary has primed heated, prime prime heater charge, and now you don't really know what to do with that. So it makes it really interesting, like basically how the Rivens change in value, because they really change those up pretty hard.
Okay, go ahead, Becky.
All right. See that top. All right. So when it comes to selling your Rivens, do you usually try to get the price down when you're selling it, like in trade chat or wherever you're selling it, or are you, or do you just buy as is?
What do you mean? As in?
Like, so let's just say somebody's selling it for like, we were just talking the other day, and somebody was selling a Riven for 1,000 plat, but you got it down to like 450 or something like that. Do you usually try to like haggle and barter it down, or are you usually the kind of just buys as is?
No, I definitely haggle. I haggle as much as I can. This is a bartering game. Like, there's no set price. It's not Walmart. You don't walk in and then there's a price tag on it, and a tax at the door. It's it's everyone guessing at the and this came from my own like life experience. I didn't start this just from nothing. I didn't really have any experience dealing with the economy here. I wouldn't have done it unless I had experience in a normal bazaar. So when I was in Iraq, I went to a local Iraqi bazaar, and when they're selling stuff, they're literally like, oh yeah, that's like 3 whatever, and you're like, I don't really want that. You start to walk over here. He's like, oh, actually, hey, man, look, hey, look, listen. I can sell it to you for 2. I can sell it to you for 2, and I can give you this Coke for free. I'm not even kidding. The guy did that to me. So he pulled the Coke from his fridge and opened it up and gave it to me, just so I would buy his $2 thing. And I was just really surprised that the flexibility in prices, I'd never seen that before. And that's what negotiating and haggling and stuff, I didn't realize. And then I saw it in Warframe, and I realized that's what everyone's doing. Like, with the exception of mods, like in the unique thing about mods is like you have Warframe.market, right? Warframe.market gives you an easy boom, like, hey, we can use this as like a general, this Riven, or excuse me, this mod is generally 30 plat. Right, at its lowest prices, and that. So if you buy it for 40, you're like, I bought it for 40, it's fine. But if you bought it for 20, you got a good deal. So it gives you that baseline. Whereas Rivens, people are just making it up. They're just guessing. They're like, I think this is whatever, and you get to do the same thing as the buyer. So I love to haggle. I love to go, hey man, this is why, and I explain my case, and I say, hey, this is what I think I could do with that Riven. The hardest part is not being a choosing beggar, right? The hardest part is not saying like, it's like the choosing beggar meme is like, this is from my friend and he's broke, so please give it to me for free or whatever, right? You can't do that. No one cares. Like, no one cares about that. What you're trying to do is pitch your case and say, hey, listen, this is what I think based on that, on the merits of your Riven, versus what's capable in what it could be used for. This is the value I think it is. So you have to actually appraise the item itself. And that's what I love about haggling. You get to do that with the seller, like right up front.
Yeah, like I guess when people just buy stuff from me that I'm selling on like the market, like once in a while somebody would be like, "Hey, can you do like slightly lower?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, sure." But then there's also people who come in like, I'm selling something like a new Prime set that just came out for 200, and someone's like, "Hey, can you do like 100?" It's like, "Nah, man, it's new. Try finding somebody else who's gonna sell it for 100." Unfortunately.
Yeah, and there are certain people that will do that. They'll just constantly lowball you, and they'll kind of make a joke out of what you're trying to do. And the hardest part about trade chat is that it is undoubtedly the most toxic part of Warframe. Like 100%. It is absolutely 100%. It is where you will find the meanest people, the rudest people, the nastiest interactions you're gonna have in Warframe. And because Warframe really is such a really wonderful community. That's one of the reasons I love this game, is that you try to do something, you're like, hey, I need this, and boom, like you got like a guy or two here ready to help you. You talk in region chat, hey, can anyone help me with X? And then 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get somebody that's gonna PM you, hey, I got a minute, what do you need? But when it comes to trade chat, people are very ruthless. They're just out for themselves, right? And so it's an every man for himself, trying to make as much plat as they can off of everything. This is the majority. This is not everyone. This is just the majority. So it makes it difficult. It makes it difficult to be nice and polite, and that over time it wears on you.
Yeah, I bet. I don't know, I've seen some pretty trashy people in region chat.
Yeah, and it's also people trying to haggle with you, right? That's where it comes from. People trying to haggle with you, or they'll insult you for your evaluation of your Riven. They'll insult you for what you think, and so it makes it difficult. Like the Riven market is definitely one of the hardest markets to deal with in Warframe, and that's why you find elitism. That's why you find these frustrating players, because that's just the nature of that whole community. That's what I've learned over time, at least. Yeah, like I said, this is not for everybody. This is just what I've been exposed to.
Yeah. Let's see. What is your favorite Riven?
My favorite Riven?
What is your favorite Riven to date that you have gotten?
Oh, let's see. Sentimentally or like stats?
Both.
Oh. Okay.
More in
That's
general.
Okay, no, that's good. That's fair. I got I have a dread Riven. I can probably say it's that. It's a dread Riven. So I have a dread crit of Visican. It's like crit chance, damage, multi-shot, minus ammo max, and I got it about 3 years ago. And it was at the time, and it's a high value roll on the damage, right? It's S on damage, which is really high. And the reason it's so important to me is it was a gift to me, as back then. I traded my entire Riven collection, which at the time was incredibly good. Even back then, I had good Rivens. It was incredibly good, and I gave like all of my so quote unquote god Rivens to this person, and I helped him purchase a Prime Chamber. This was 3 years ago, right? So this was Prime Chamber wasn't a thing, right? The guy wanted like 50K or 75K or something like that, and I contributed. It was my buddy who was buying it, and he's like, man, and we were talking back and forth, and I was just like, you know what, dude? I don't need anything that I have. I'm okay with giving this all to you, because I only wanted one mod. And I was like, bro, I'll give you all this if it gets you Prime Chamber, because the mod doesn't exist, and it'd be cool if my buddy had it. And boom, I gave him everything I had. The collection was worth about like 20,000 at the time, like 20,000, which was a lot for then as well. And he was just like, oh, he obviously he was blown away and stuff like that, and it was really nice to do something nice for my buddy. And the whole thing happened over the course of like a day or two. We finally got the trade to go pull off, and I had to it was like a 3-way trade of me giving him stuff and then my buddy giving him stuff, and then he traded the mod, and it was all on level, and we're all still friends. I'm friends with that guy even now. But as a thank you, my friend, who was also an avid Riven connoisseur at the time, he gave me the Dread Riven. He's like, hey man, I want you to have this Dread Riven. And I was like, what's so special about the Dread Riven? And at the time, the market was really small. Like, not a lot of Rivens were rolled, not a lot of Rivens existed, right? It was much earlier in the Riven phase. So at the time, it was one of the best Dread Rivens in the game, and no matter who I spoke to, I could not find a better one. I literally could not find a better one. Nobody had a better one. Nobody had a better stats. Nothing like that. He literally gave me, the so-called best in the game at the time of a Dread Riven, because ammo maximum is really no big deal, right? So it's just a great Riven, and I really thought, like, he's like, hey man, I want to give you this. I know he's like, as of right now, I think this is the best Dread Riven in the game. I was talking to some other guys. This is what we got. This is what we all think this is the best in the game. He's like, can I have it? And I want to give it to you as a thank you for helping me purchase Prime Chamber. And I have that Riven to this day. So 3 years later, I still use that same one. I still have the same loadout. Everything's still the same. That is easily my favorite Riven because of the sentimentality to it. Because of my friends, I highly value my friends, and because honestly, it's a phenomenal mod. Like, it really is. It's amazing. It's very strong. It's very powerful. So
That's awesome.
Let's
It's
see.
a really cool story.
Yeah, none of my Rivens have stories.
Oh, if
Most
you
of
want
Jason's
to,
Riven stories are I got them from somebody.
if you want to link, yeah, I was gonna say, I'll show it up real quick.
Holy
That way
shit.
everyone can take a look at it.
yeah, there you go. I linked it there.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So that damage
That's
roll
not-
is about the maximum that maximum allowable. So it's pretty much the most max roll you can get.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
how. Speaking of like max rolls, how do you determine like what is the max, like I guess percent increase or whatever you can get on a Riven?
Oh,
Like-
that's easy. I use Semlar. Semlar is a phenomenal website to help you price point Rivens and find Rivens that have been posted in trade chat. So yeah, it's www.semlar.com. Pretty great website, like a phenomenal resource. There's like a little link at the top. Let me go look at it myself, so I don't give anybody the wrong Semlar.
Becky,
type.
that's the one that I used when I was tracking the anomaly for the sentient for Burn the Veil. Back
Is that
before
also
it
the one we
was
use to track? I was gonna say, is that also the site we use to track acolytes, or is that a different one?
maybe. I think I just used a like Warframe.hub or something like that, just like a global tracker kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know me and Jason used to use Semlar before for like Eidolons or for Cetus Knight, because we used to
Yeah.
before they added the game.
Okay, so now I'm here. All right, so on Semlar.com, there's a top link that says Rivens. It's a drop-down menu. That's it, and then you hit the drop-down menu, go to Stat Ranges, and then you always tab over to 3 buffs, and it has Curse. So there's like a little it's like little pip buttons. You just fill out the 3 buttons button or 3 buffs button, and always keep a curse, because curses, like negative stats, they increase the value of stats. If it doesn't have a curse, the maximum is reduced, right? So all of the maximum potential
Really?
values are reduced.
Oh,
Yes.
I
yes,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you always want to, like these so let's talk about quote unquote god Rivens, right? You see this term like constantly thrown around, and most people misuse it. A god Riven is 3 buffs with a curse. So it's the highest potential, like, so that we did some homework a long time ago. 2 buffs and a curse is always really strong and really nice, but 3 buffs with a curse, in the proper setting, in the proper build, is far stronger. It's always the strongest of all the Riven possibilities. So we know that 3+1- is the strongest potential Riven, and you have to find these specific stats in order to make that true, right? You can't just have damage of Grineer and or plus minus recoil and then plus damage. That doesn't mean the damage roll is going to be that high. It just means that the combination of the stats has to be correct in order for that to be the most powerful one. But that potential will always exist for 3+1-.
oh, more you know.
Yeah,
I'll have a better eye when it comes out to my Riven.
Yeah, anytime they don't have a negative stat on them, they're first of all, the minimums are lower and the maximums are lower.
Ooh.
So that's why you need these perfect. Yeah, so a god Riven is a 3+1- with a perfect negative. So the perfect negative is not a negative bane such as damage or Grineer, which you'll see people selling. Oh, I got a god Riven, and it has great stats like crit, like crit chance, crit damage, and then multi-shot or whatever, and it'll be like damage or Grineer. It's not a god Riven. It's a good Riven, but it's not a god Riven.
Yeah,
right?
because
a god Riven,
you don't want. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, exactly. You're already about to say a God Riven's going to have negative zoom. It's going to have a harmless negative that does not impact the weapon, unless there's and the counterpart to harmless is beneficial. So there's beneficial negatives, as we know now. Negative impact, negative puncture on certain builds, negative slash to some people. It helps them specifically tweak that weapon for a build that works incredibly effectively. And that's literally we call those like four positive ribbon.
All right. Someone in chat said, "Who is this man?" Let's give him 100k plat. But speaking of plat, in an estimate, if you can just get an estimate of it, how much plat have you made off of like selling ribbons? If you can even like fathom whatever number you're gonna get.
Oh no, I have a rough estimation. That's a great question. I'm not like some of these other guys who've been just super dedicated to it and they got so much. The most that I have made off of selling ribbons is roughly around like the 80 to 90,000 plat area.
Oh, dang! It's a lot of plat.
Mm-hmm.
With plat, you were talking about earlier about how much your ribbons were worth.
Mm-hmm.
Back like when you played 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think like the plat market, like the selling for ribbons and all that stuff, do you think that market's like inflated and people have just like the prices have only gone like increasingly up over the years and like
keep continuing, sorry, go ahead.
or I guess more so like however much like a certain kind of ribbon was worth like 3 years ago, has it gone up like astronomically to the point where it's like definitely not worth whatever amount you like could have gotten it for 3 years ago?
No, that's a phenomenal question, and it's actually the opposite. So the price goes down.
Oh.
So yeah, absolutely, and it's awesome. I love that about the market because guess what? As I rolled this phenomenal ribbon 3 years ago, how many people in 3 years are going to roll those types of ribbons or open or unveil those weapon ribbons, and then all of a sudden it's a phenomenal ribbon. So the market becomes saturated with this type of ribbon that everyone's looking for, that has the great stats on it, that is the so-called God ribbon, right? That's 10k plat. And then now all of a sudden you look around, a couple years later, there's 30 of them, whereas back then there were 2. So because the market becomes saturated and all those buyers who are paying those 10k prices, they got their ribbons, right? Because listen, let's be fair, not everybody's going to be paying those prices, but since people do pay those prices, that's why people list them there, because there are people that buy those, that just say, oh, that's 7,000 plat ribbon, boom, I'll buy that, and that's because they don't care, they want that ribbon. But guess what? Once that guy has that ribbon, he no longer needs it, and so the number of people that are willing to buy these ribbons vastly diminishes. And this is one thing I could tell that not a lot of ribbon sellers nowadays understand, that the market's saturated. It's good. It's done. Like right now, it's full of great ribbons, phenomenal ribbons. Now the harder part is pulling those ribbons off of people who don't want to sell them. That's where some of the harder prices come into play.
Oh, I see.
Oh, and one further to that, I left the game at the height, in my opinion, of Riven selling. So, and I was frustrated. I was so frustrated with the Riven prices. You know, my buddy was selling a phenomenal like Vectis Riven that was like crit chance, crit damage or multi-shot, or some combination of these with negative magazine, right? And that was, you had to have minus 25% or greater magazine in order to bring the Vectis Prime down from 2 bullets to 1, so that Prime Chamber could fit into it and work on every round, right? So there's these specific builds that cost so much plat that people are looking for, certain people, right, with Prime Chamber, and that he sold that mod for 90,000 plat. And wow. I was like, no way. And he sent me a screenshot. And he was like, he no joke sold it for 90,000 plat. I was like, bro, what? Like, and I was just stunned. And I was like, why? Like, these mods. And then I realized, like, even my evaluations are skewed, because this is one of the reasons I stopped playing. Is like, because I was like, no, these mods should be at least 4,000 plat, or whatever. It should be at most 6,000, right? And then I realized, I'm like, what am I saying, man? Because a few years back, I was the same guy going, why are you charging me 1,000 plat? Because that's a lot of money, right? And so I realized how disconnected I had become to reality, to what people are really pricing these Rivens to, and it became really frustrating to just watch and be a part of, and I couldn't do it anymore.
I getcha. What kind? Okay, so this one I just thought of because I thought it might be a little funny. What weapon that like the community would usually consider like useless or bad have you made like pretty great with a Riven?
Ooh, oh man, let's see. I don't even think let me see what I got. I don't think I have much in the way of that. Because I as a Riven like trader, I stick to the meta stuff, right? It's really hard to deal with off meta stuff. So and you'll notice this with almost every single Riven seller. 90% of those guys are really out of touch with off meta builds and really great builds that are just like a fraction away from becoming phenomenal weapons that compete at the highest levels. So that's a hard question for me to answer because I really don't have one. Like, I mean, the best thing that we did was discover that negative impact was incredibly valuable. That negative IPS was incredibly valuable. That's the best thing that we discovered. Because back then, it was weighted. IPS was impact, puncture, and slash were weighted 4 times as heavily against the element. So you had to have negative of that IPS stat in order to increase the proccing the elemental status. So I wanted to proc corrosive. And then it was tough, So when we started figuring these out, we started looking into these negative impact Rivens because I was around for all this stuff, and everyone's like, oh, this negative impact Riven, and then, some guy's selling it to you he's like, hey man, this negative impact garbage. Here, it's got negative damage on it. You can have it for 50 plat, and you're looking at it, and it turns this weapon into this amazingly phenomenal weapon. And I have something like. Just like that, which is like these twin Gurkhatas, right? I talked about this with you the other day, right? These twin Gurkhatas, somebody sold these to me for 80 plat way back when, and I looked at this and I was gonna roll it to, I was looking for crit chance, damage, and all the ideal stuff with like minus zoom, and then I realized that it's a minus impact Riven, and you turn around and you place this upon, I put it to the twin Gurkhatas, which. It took the impact damage, allowed me to proc corrosive on almost every single shot because of the electricity, and I realized that, oh my god, like this is one of the best Rivens in my arsenal, and I got it because this guy thought it was garbage, and I didn't even look at the stats when he sold it to me. I was like, I was like, hey, willing to buy unrolled Rivens, and he gave me this Riven for real cheap, and I didn't even look at it. I was like, thanks, dude. I looked at the rolls, and it was unranked. I didn't care. I was like, cool, buy it. And then I went to roll it, and I realized, wow, like this is a thing. So probably Twin Gurkhatas, and the realization of negative impact damage overall. Like this was a couple years ago. That was probably the coolest thing that we did. Me and some friends.
Nice. All right. Moving this, unless Jason or Logan have any more questions about Rivens, we have a couple general questions that we usually ask. I
have one more.
Jason? All right, go ahead.
So I know we briefly talked about it, but you have experience with the Riven dealers, right? The feared and I don't know if they were self-acclaimed, but the dubbed Riven Mafia. Is there is there anything you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, the Riven Mafia. That is definitely not self-acclaimed. I was in Riven dealers for a while. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, for anyone that might not know, why don't you tell us what Riven dealers was?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Riven Dealers was a clan that was thrown together by one of the more prominent like Riven sellers and traders back in the day, and we all kind of knew each other because there was like 6 or 7 of us, and we all kind of knew each other. And he PMs us, all of us, and again, I talked about the negativity that's in trade chat. He only talked to the guys that were decent people. He only talked to the guys that were respectful in their trades, not disrespectful in anything. Like they were constantly cordial and just good people. And so he let them all know. I was like, hey guys, I'm making a Riven dealing clan to kind of put us together, and we can exchange Rivens and sell it to each other and stuff like that, and talk about prices and make like a community to sell Rivens, and then it could just be a group of traders because we were already friends, and so like all of us were on board. And yeah, it was exciting. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, of course. So yeah, I joined up with him right away.
Cool. All right. Now that we know what it is, why don't you continue with your experience and whatnot?
Oh, yeah. Riven Dealers was during the period that I left. They got a lot of negative press over something that happened.
It was I've only seen like a handful of videos on it, but it had something to do with Semlar, right?
It was, yeah. I think, like, my understanding, because my buddy PM'd me on Discord. It's like, yo, man, did you see this crazy thing? And I didn't even have Warframe installed at the time because I was busy working. And I was like, wait, what? And I started like looking at my buddy and seeing what's going on. And I realized that he, the clan leader, had gotten into an altercation with, I guess, somebody that was managing Semlar. He was trying to get it taken down, I guess, because they were introducing a new feature that was like identifying price points in trade chat. It was like recording prices, and it basically helped buyers to get a cheaper Riven. Period. It was a great tool. It was a phenomenal tool. And I don't remember his argument, but I remember reading it. As I was reading it, I was like, yeah, that's a silly argument. I wouldn't have made that argument, man. Like, this is a great tool for buyers. And he didn't like that. I forgot what reason why. He had a reason and some twisted logic in his head. I don't remember what it was. It's probably made sense at the time.
Disillusion with the game, full of greed kind of thing, maybe.
I don't know. I don't want to say that because I'm not so sure about him as like a player, as a person, as a dealer. I definitely had my own opinion on him, and I had my own opinion on Rivens in general. Even back then, I hated it because I hated the prices because it was so expensive. And here we are gatekeeping new players because they want to do something cool, and all of a sudden he goes, hey, I want to buy this cool mod, and there's some Riven dealer that's like, it's 8,000 plat.
Yeah, right. Give an arm and a leg and 2-3 twirls.
Yeah, so I actually really hated Riven sale. I hated Rivens but you couldn't argue with it because it was a free market. It's a free market. DE said, hey man, listen, here's capitalism in a can. Good luck. Here's Rivens, here's randomization, here's trade chat. Good luck, guys. And it just took off, and it's just capitalism. That's what happened. And it's one of the reasons that, it was just unregulated and people were just doing whatever they wanted. And until the hardest part about it is that people were purchasing at these prices. If nobody purchased a Riven at 20,000 plat, no one's going to post a Riven for 20,000 plat, right?
Yeah.
But people definitely are buying them, because I sold the Riven for one of my Rivens is like half of my Riven content, or my plat content. I sold the Riven for 50,000 plat. And I was amazed. I was like, yeah, I really sold it, and I couldn't believe it. But yeah. But yeah, I had a special rank in the clan. Because everybody knew my stance. These guys were like 200,000 plat, kind of like that's where they sat at, 150 to 200,000 plat on average. And I was like the guy that was kind of the cheap guy. I was down in the dumps with 30,000 plat, 40,000,
You can call that down in the dumps.
Right, exactly, and that's exactly how much it skews your perception of reality, right? Because once you start making all this plat, you're making 20 to 50,000 plat every other day, because your plat goes up and down. I realized, I thought I was doing good. I was like, yo, man, I got so much plat, I'm doing good. And then my buddy's like, yeah, bro, I just hit 220. And I'm like, huh? And then I realized,
Crazy.
They're constantly selling their Rivens for exorbitant prices, but people are purchasing them. Go ahead.
No, continue.
I was like, so could you hold it against the guy? Could you really say he's a bad person?
Mm-hmm.
Could you? You really can't. I mean, yeah, you're kind of mad at him, but hate the game, not the player. Like, that's what he did. Like, the game let him do it, and nobody, everybody let him get away with it. So how can you hate that? How can you hold it against him? I don't like it. I don't really agree with it. I don't think that I won't do that myself. And this is why I made very vocal back then. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And so I sold my Rivens what I would consider to be at an approachable price. I'd sell really great Rivens for 1,500 plat, whereas my buddies would have sold them for 2,800 plat. The same exact Riven. If it was in his possession, it would be 2,800. If it's in mine, it's 1,500, right? And it's because I was trying to keep approachable prices, or at least what I thought were better, appropriate to the weapon and whatever the fuck at the time. But So they made me a special rank in the clan, and it put me as I was the only one, honorary Riven dealer, and that was it. So I wasn't like a real one. Yeah, I wasn't a real Riven dealer, but I was in it for a long time because I loved Rivens. I definitely love Rivens. I love all the stuff you can do with them, but the market is what's so awful about them.
Do you think the like the high rollers in your clan? Do you think when they bought and traded Rivens, do you think they ever used them before they sold them? Or do you think they just flipped them for the plat?
Flipped. Yeah, 100%. I don't think they used them.
That just kind of defeats the purpose of what Rivens were intended to be on paper.
Yep. I entirely agree, and it's one of the reasons I did not like it. I left the clan for a reason, because I'm surrounded by people who pretend to know what they're talking about. They go to the simulacrum, they fire a couple shots, they're like, "This is an amazing Riven," blah, and then they're like, all of a sudden they feel like they're the experts on it, and you're like, well, and you know what? And it's very telling, and I do this all the time. Go open their profile up, go to show profile, go over to their equipment page, and look at their stats on that weapon. If they don't have 10,000 plus kills on that weapon, at least, that discredits them. To me, in my opinion, it discredits them.
Yeah, because
you don't use it.
Yeah, you don't even know it for yourself.
You're just trying to make plat, and that bugs me the most.
You're playing the weapon in a sandbox when you should be out in the field, actually putting it to good use to test it out, to get a feel for it.
Exactly.
Because you never know. Something like one of those triple Bane mod or quad Bane mods are.
Yeah, those are cool.
they'll really like turn like a crap weapon into just like a god weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't talk.
Yeah, no, it was tough because as the longer I stayed in there, the more I realized these people are truly disconnected from the game. The more I got into Rivens, the more removed I became from Warframe itself, which is just playing the game, having fun with your buddies, blazing through levels, farming for parts, having fun, doing the things. And instead, you become this economist where you're just constantly monitoring prices. It's almost like you're like a stock trader.
It's stock
you're looking at Riven.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see the Riven market.
Yeah, it's exactly what people do. They sit there and that's all they do.
It's so disconnected from the actual point of the game.
Which is
and the
why
point
you
of what
see
Rivens were supposed to be.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's just not what the point of Rivens were supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's why that community is so toxic. Like specific, and I only know this because I was in it for so long. I mean, you should see my ignore list. Like I can't know this guy anymore. Like and like 80, I'll say 80. That's a horribly low estimate. Like 98% of my ignore list is from trade chat. It's from these people that are just they're just mean about their prices. They're mean to you. They disrespect your opinion, and that's what they do all the time. And it's a constant thing. And so it's because they're disconnected. But you start playing with, like it took me to like stop playing the game and come back to realize this properly, which is like you start playing the game, you start running levels with random players, and you realize like this is a nice community. Like that guy, people come over, they res you, right? And he's like, hey, no problem, dude. I got you for this. I got you for that, right? You're cracking relics, but he's like, hey, I got this relic. I'm looking for this piece. And you guys, they come together, they help each other. And when you deal with Rivens, it's just like, nope, heck no. Every man for himself. Right. And so it becomes this really for me for a while. I was really dark and negative. I sat there for hours just trading over and over and over and over. And yeah, I was making like plat, hand over fist. It was just awesome. I'm like, oh, boom, 3,000 plat here, boom, 2,000 plat there, boom, 1,500 plat there, boom, 6,000 plat of not Riven, and it was just over and over and over and over and over and over. And it was just, and the hardest part was watching other people brag about these quote snipes, right? These snipes, right? And that was honestly, it became over time to me, it became sickening.
That was just exploiting like people who didn't know what they had, right?
Yeah, so I'll explain for anybody that might not know. A snipe is when you purchase a Riven for incredibly cheap, and it's an incredibly good Riven, and you sell it for at least like 5 times what you paid, minimum 5 times, right? Like, and we've seen people buy Rivens for, I've seen a guy buy a Riven for 200 plat, and he sold it for 20,000. I've seen this, and he's like, and he bragging, boy, I bought it for 200 plat, man, sold it for 20K, and I'm like, I'm not like, and then I realized I don't really respect you. I don't think that's cool, man. I really don't. Like you scammed a guy and then you scammed the second guy. And I just that's how it feels at the like. And I realized like over time, like I can't do this anymore. I can't be a part of this. I can't deal with this. And like I said, it took it out of me, and I quit the game for 2 years. I came back a couple months ago. That's where I'm at now, and I've been looking around for great friends and stuff like that. And I play the game differently. It's a lot different. Rivens are a really difficult thing to discuss sometimes because there's so much about them when it comes to buying and selling and being a Riven trader.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think DE should have stepped in more when everything got chaotic in the market as a whole, or do you think their laissez-faire kind of approach to it was best suited even if things were a little crazy?
That's a great question, and this is like people talk about like socialism versus capitalism and things like that. This is a tough one to answer because it gives DE profit to let the market run wild, right? It gives DE a phenomenal amount of money when Rivens are selling for 20k, right? That plat, like all tradable plat, is purchased, right? Well, all like the DE states in their at least the last time I looked, which is a while ago, DE stated, in like the little fine print, that they're like 100 plat giveaway, they're 100,000 plat giveaways from like their streams and stuff. That is non-tradable plat, right? So if that's not if there aren't these windfalls of plat like that, then we know that every single bit of plat being traded. Because listen, the only other plat that's constantly introduced into the game is that 50 plat when you first start the game, right? If that was tradable, we could chalk it up to whatever. But even that's not tradable. Even that MR1 50 plat new account, that's not even tradable. So every single bit of traded plat is purchased. Doesn't matter whether or not it's on 75% off or not. It's purchased. So it doesn't, like when Rivens are selling for 25,000 plat, 40,000 plat, it benefits DE massively. Benefits them over and over and over and over and over again, because guys are going to see a really rare mod and they need to purchase it now. Boom, it costs 2,000 plat. I got 900. I need to buy 1,100. That's $50 or whatever, however much it is, right? That's money in their pocket, and so there's no incentive for them to stop. But but I think I really do think that they should have gotten involved and had a regulation on it, on like at least something, right? Which is hey, no Rivens will sell for more than whatever plat, because it's so much money. $200 for 4,000 plat at on the average prices, of course, without a discount, is it's hard to sit there and say when someone sells a mod for 10,000 plat that are you really selling a mod for like $500? You're really selling one piece of mod for $500? Because that's what the real price is. If you were to equate it to normal dollars without a discount, it's $500.
Yeah, that's how we've been like equating it recently. And that's like the most fucked up thing, because we were saying it's like we were saying like IP or ones and zeros. So like it's just code. You're paying X amount for just a piece of code in a game. It's just so ridiculous in itself.
It is. Yeah. No, it really is. And like I said, the hardest part for me was like, what are you going to do to the new community? What are you going to do for the new players? Every time they start up and boom, they love this game. They think it's so cool. They have fun. And then they start influxing into trade chat at MR8 or whatever, start picking up Rivens. And then they realize Rivens are disproportionately priced to the rest of why can I get like the best damage mod, Serration or whatever, for a couple hundred plat? And then this thing, which has the same amount of that as that Serration, all of a sudden this is thousands and thousands of plat. And then they're like, how is this guy supposed to do anything? How is he supposed to equate that? Because I've had to do this. I've had to be the guy talking to an MR8. And I'm like, the Riven is 2,000 plat. And he just goes, huh? Like, what? Why? And like, wait, and then they're just so confused. And it's hard not to be sympathetic for that. It's hard not to be like, yeah, man, I completely see where you're coming from. Why you would be floored that it's so expensive. And like I said, after a while, I was just like, watching DE not take action to me, that spoke louder. That the inaction spoke loudest to me. And I talked to you about this once upon a time. The biggest one was Prime Chamber, because the final Prime Chamber sale was 300,000 plat, right? The final one from the original 100, prime chambers is 300,000 plat. And I know the guy who did it. He told me, he's like, I did it, I have it. And he's like, I feel horrible. He quit the game and stuff like that when they gave out prime chamber again. And I was thinking about that. Yeah, that was a big problem for me. Why is prime chamber 150,000 plat? Because at the time it was 150 when I quit, and then it just kept going up to 200,000, 250,000, 300,000, right? And I hated that because they would lord it over you in their dev streams, like, oh, you could win a prime chamber, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, and you kind of like, I got a little cynical after a while. I'm like, really, that's all you got, dude? Are you hurting for viewers so badly that you're just gonna dangle the rarest mod in the game constantly in the hopes that people are gonna come and watch your stuff? Like, is that the goal? Is that you have no other trump cards left to play except this prime chamber? And so I got really disillusioned and disenchanted with the game. I got frustrated with the company and as a whole, as a gamer, right? I'm like, yeah, I think that game should be fun for all. And when instead it's fun for a few and not for all, like, it's not fun. It's not fair, Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So yeah, no, they should have done something. I agree. They should have done something.
Yeah. All right. So the last question that we have for you, it's usually like our general question is, would you recommend the game in the current state that it's in to like a friend to play? Or I guess, are you happy with the state of the game?
Yes, I would. I actually recently just did that. I recently tried to bring my friend in on it. So the tough part about it is that if you are gonna bring in anybody, you gotta mentor them a little bit. You gotta have to. It's what we call expectation management. You kind of do a little bit of like, kind of prepping the field, right? You're tilling the soil. You're like, hey man, like, just so you know, this trade chat area is kind of full of minefields. If you're able to do that with certain things, yeah, bring in some. I love new players. I love helping new players. I think that this game is a wonderful game to play with other people, especially newer players, because they're getting wowed by all the cool stuff that you've already been wowed by. Because we all know that, like, we pull out new guns and they're like, oh man, this is so cool, guys, like, let's check this out. And like, you start doing all those builds and you get excited about it, right? And you're like, oh, check out this warframe, bro, look at this build, I can get so high, like I can do all these, like I can get to like level 200 plus easy. And you start getting excited, right? It makes you happy to play these things, and that's how we should be, like, that's how the game should be, right? Which is why players are getting mad that their favorite warframes are getting nerfed constantly and getting brought down to like levels of so-called unfun, right? When the game is meant to be fun. Like, yeah, let me kill the thing, dude. I love that my warframe kills the thing. Why would you take it away from me? Right? Right? That's the whole point of the game, is to have something that you love and you love playing. So I think there's so much to offer new players. I would absolutely recommend it to everybody with a little bit of prep work, a little bit of like, hey buddy, come on, you put your arm around his shoulder, like, hey man, let me talk to you about this real quick. you just gotta bring them in and kind of show them the ropes a little bit. So that's why I think it's especially important for veteran players to help newer players. That's a big one. Kindly, not like rudely.
Yeah, I want to say, like, you were saying too, it's like this community is like of the most friendly I've ever seen. It's like, you need something in trade chat, or not trade chat, but in region chat, and I forget if it's help chat or whatever the other one is, but it's like, hey, you ask a question. Like, I see like every day people say, when's Barrow coming? And it's like, yeah, either the bot instantly says, you get like 3 people, someone says, what's this do? How do you do this? Anyone want to run this? And it's like almost instantly you get like replies, and there's like not just one, it's like multiple people that are just like, yeah, I can give a hand, I can lend a hand. People are always giving taxis. It's like, this game's almost notorious for having a friendly game, like friendly fan base, and it's like, I want to recommend to like anyone.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you know what? And I came from the League of Legends community, right? That was my drug of choice for like a while, right? And it's like heroin, right? You love it. You're like, oh, I'm not heroin, but I'm like, I can imagine like this is like the drug. I love it so much, and then it's just so bad for you because the community is incredibly toxic. So coming over and playing Warframe, here I get a wonderful gaming experience, and I have a phenomenal community. Like, what's not to like?
Yeah, that brings me. I used to play. Well, I still do play WoW. I was having for a good bit, but WoW, for people who don't know, WoW has a literal $15 to $20 subscription, and I would see people will sit in the main city in WoW and say, "This game's dead. Why do people still play this? This game's dead." And it's like, You spent $20 to complain in the chat and to ask stupid, like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't get it. In this community, it's like you don't see that. You don't, because it's like, especially being free to play too. It's like that's the only reason I started to play it. I didn't have any money to play a game, and it's like I saw it was free to play, and I'd seen a couple friends had played it, so I just like jumped into it.
And just play free.
Yeah, just play free.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah,
and
thank you so much.
and to any listeners, you know, I'm Hydrogen, and I'm always willing to help anybody. So if you want to PM me, my name is literally just the Element. It's pretty easy to know. Just let me know.
For people, I was gonna say, for people in the Cephalon chat server, his name is Cloud Rain. If you need help, he is around pretty often, and you know, it's a vibe.
yeah, I love helping people, so I will always take the time out of my day to try to help anyone as much as I can. So if anyone has any questions, always just feel free to PM me and let me know what you need.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thank
so
you guys for having
much. We're really glad we got you.